For more on this, I want to bring in former Trump trade advisor Curtis Ellis. You know, Curtis, I got to be honest with you. There was a time when Wilbur Ross or Larry Kudlow would talk about the trade deal, and I would just cringe like, guys, just don't talk. Just leave it alone until it's finally done. Right. But if you look at these markets, forgetting about these headlines for a moment, if you look at these markets, it feels like the market believes something major is going to happen very soon.
And I think it's what you were saying before. The economy is fundamentally strong. Consumer optimism is high. Earnings are good. Small business optimism is high. We have a good economy. Wages are rising. That's more money for consumers to spend.
Conversely, China's economy is not as strong. Right. They had their weakest GDP in 30 years. And there's some other cracks in that veneer. Now, when this whole thing began, the U.S. media picked up on the notion that they could wait this out for 100 years. We obviously know that's not true.
And we're seeing huge increase in the number of defaults on the local level of governments in China. The local governments, they're very overextended. They're not paying their contractors. They're not paying people. So they're in a bad position over there, which, again, is good news for us, and that gives us more negotiating and more leverage power.
And the goal was never to hurt their economy. No. The goal was to get fair trade, fair and quote-unquote reciprocal trade.
Get them to stop cheating, get them to open up their markets as they promised they would but never have, stop stealing, stop selling drugs in our country.
Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi reiterated that she believes this trade, the USMCA trade deal, is close. I don't think Americans realize just how big that is, that the Canada and Mexico, how big trading partners. They're bigger. It's a bigger deal than China.
Absolutely. That's the thing that just astounds me. Everybody talks China, China, China. We do 5 times more business, export 5 times more to Mexico and Canada. You want to see the markets jump, get USMCA done. Give business certainty that North America will be cemented as a great market, a great place to manufacture, do business, etc.
Do you get the sense she's putting her finger in the wind, or watching how these hearings go over yesterday and today, as to how her sense of urgency? In other words, if they look like they really haven't gone the Democrats' way, does that make it likely that she'll sign off on this sooner rather than later?
Absolutely right. And also, if they don't get this done, President Trump will be hitting the Democrats next year with, I promised I would get out of TPP. I did. I promised I'd fix NAFTA. I did, but the Democrats wouldn't let me because Bill Clinton gave you NAFTA, and now they don't want to fix it.
Speaking of President Trump, Larry Kudlow was speaking today. And, of course, you know, Larry Kudlow, he's not from he didn't come from the same, area of thinking as President Trump, but he had some interesting comments on the way President Trump speaks and negotiates. Let's take a listen. I want to get your thoughts on it.
Pleased to read Speaker Pelosi's remarks. They're very optimistic. You know, I've said all along, we've had our political differences with the Speaker, but she has been cooperative and accommodative on USMCA, working with Trade Ambassador Lighthizer. So I read her remarks very optimistically.
Well, that was not the soundbite I was calling for, but we know President Trump speaks a certain way.
That's right.
We also know that there are a whole lot of folks out there, and I got to be honest, I read some of these financial publications, and even now they're clinging to their orthodoxy, to their belief, to the idea that Adam Smith, was an amazing, economist and more, but that this was still the wrong way to go about this. Yesterday, Mark Cuban was on our network, said he had 10 ways we could have resolved this. It's so interesting. An issue hangs around for 3 decades,
right,
and everyone's got the answers when everything else has already failed. What do you make of the fact that President Trump has changed the narrative for most people outside of those who are protecting their own, let's say, egos?
Yeah, right. I think that may be his greatest, when the history books are written, that could be his greatest achievement. That is, if we write the history books, because history is written by the victors. If we win this confrontation with China, which is our generation's rendezvous with destiny, that could well go down as President Trump's most significant achievement, rewriting the orthodoxy, the idea that China is our friend and we just go along, get along, and everything's going to be groovy.
Right. Or that you never use tariffs. I mean, I think we both agree we don't use them unless you have to.
And
it's
Adam
a weapon
Smith
sometimes.
said so. Adam Smith said you use tariffs if the other country is using tariffs.
Right.
And common sense says if we say we'll never use tariffs, that gives the other side every reason to use tariffs.
Curtis Ellis, great seeing you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, again, we are awaiting